we on?
I think so.
All right.
Am I on? Fantastic. I bet you're wondering what this is doing perched up here. I'll get to that in a moment. First, I'd like to say it's great to be back. And it's double great to have a charming young lady with me. Can't blame me for that now, can you, fellas? And she is the mother of a young man who's almost 4 years old, and he scares the dickens out of me.
He's just like you?
No, he's better than I am. He's better than I am. He speaks in sentences and with very correct grammar. And that just worries me what's ahead for me when he turns 6. But he's a very charming young man. And she also has a husband who's half charming, at least. Depends on which side of his gene pool you're looking at. If you're looking at his mother's DNA, very charming. And you look at the father's side, well, that gets to be a little bit problematic. Now, we're going to talk about something that I didn't hear discussed in any of the groups. And I'm hoping that's because the word got out of what we're going to talk about, and not because it's not on your horizon as inventors. And one of the objectives here tonight will be to put evaluation on your horizon as inventors, because that's a critical factor that you need to tackle fairly early. And we're going to I'm going to comment first on the, everybody got a copy of the graph? Okay. Sorry for the quality of that. I have a much better one, but I couldn't find that. And so that's the one we've got. But there's a couple of things there. We're not going to get to this yet. So just the graph. I put that together because I wanted to make a couple of points to inventors. First, innovation, invention, and innovation. Put the two together. That's a multidisciplinary, interdependent process. If you have an idea for an invention, that's good, because every invention is contingent upon somebody having an idea. But it's got to go well beyond that, as you all know. And so we're going to look at the various, and we're going to look at the various steps in this interdependent process, multidisciplines. It takes all sorts of people involved to get a product into the marketplace. And I got a sense from some of you, from some of the conversation that was going on, that you're very much aware of that. And I'm glad to hear that. And so if you have any questions, now at any time, if you have any questions, I don't want to have to stand up here and speak. And Gabriel's going to come up, and she's going to help me deal with some questions. And what she doesn't know is that I'm not going to do the traditional thing of giving you a speech. And then you ask questions later. I want you to ask questions, any questions that you might have that you think that either one of us can answer. Feel free at any point in time to ask that question, okay? And
when you do ask a question, if you would just raise your hand and wait for the mic so the online viewers can hear, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, I want to start, and now I'm getting edging back to my briefcase. I want to tell you about an invention. But this invention is unique. There's nothing else like it anywhere. And everybody is going to want one, and everybody's going to buy it. Sound familiar? Heard that before? Well, And I want to introduce you to the, Gabriel, do you want to introduce these folks to the inventor of this invention that not even she knows about?
Am I supposed to say what it is?
No, you're just supposed to introduce the inventor.
Right here. The man.
Aw.
The legend.
The legend. My latest invention. I invented it 2 days ago. Everybody knows that necessity is the mother of invention, right? And there's a lot of truth to that. Well, I was standing there and I had a need. I was organizing some things in my new closet, and I had all of these belts, and I didn't know what to do with them, and I had a need for something to handle those belts. So I thought about it for a minute, and then inspiration hit me just like that. And I saw something that could help me. Now, one of the groups was talking a fair amount about prototypes and having to have a prototype. Well, I went from idea to prototype, not instantly, but we're going to replicate that process. I've got to find. I had the need, and I looked, and the inspiration really came from the potential prototype. Here it is. You all recognize it. It's a hanger. And so I said, okay, I've got about 8 belts, and so how can I get something that'll organize those belts? So I took it, and I bent it, then I bent it again, then I bent it again, and then I bent it again, and I bent it again, and I straightened them out. You getting the idea? So I had all these different hooks here, and I had them all turned up like this. This one isn't quite as good as the other one, but it's good enough. And one of my belts volunteered to come along. I brought an old ratty one, so in case I lost it. Here we go. Voila. There's my invention. Now, your job tonight is to evaluate this invention. Okay, some of you are smirking, and I'm getting a little nervous here. And the person who makes the most positive comment, I'm not at all biased, but the person who makes the most positive comment about this is going to get a prize tonight.
If, say, for instance, I said that's the most unique use of a hanger since the unlocking of a door, would that qualify?
It might. We'd have to see, because, okay, the prize is not going to be this belt, because this belt and I have many years together, and we're a long ways away from wanting to be separated. But
Multi-spanking machine. Multi-holder of spanking machines.
That's getting a little bit, that's taking me back into the past and bringing back some painful memories, so I'm not going to accept that. But the person who comes up with the best comment gets this prototype as a prize, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn now. I'm going to leave this hanging up so it'll stimulate the conversation here.
Inspiration.
Inspiration. Maybe somebody can come up with an improvement to it. And before we get there, maybe I better talk about, can we crank that chart up a little bit so it shows? The bottom half isn't a bottom quarter, so there. We can do away with the stages. There, that's good enough. Everything starts with an idea. Notice the estimated failure rates. Boy, there's a misspelled word there. How did that happen? And you find more than one. And this is rough draft material. And notice that it says pre-inventors, failure rate, 500. 1 in 500 ideas is successful. I hate to give you the bad news. That's really good news because the failure rate at the idea stage is probably higher than that, particularly for pre-inventors, people who have an idea but have not pursued it. So if you have an idea that's worthy of pursuing it, then pursue it, because if you're going out to the marketplace with it, ideas have no commercial value until they're developed. All right, inventors, those who develop a working prototype, stand a better chance. Now, I'd say I'm not necessarily including myself in the category on that invention. I have some others, by the way. And then corporations usually do better because they tend to an awful lot of ideas in corporations never circulate. They never get any visibility. Now, I will say this about corporations. They are unique because there's never been, that I'm aware of, a corporation that has invented anything.
IBM.
What did IBM
Well, don't they have
invent?
the most patents right now? Like just came out.
Well, they may have the most patents. That's a good point. They have a lot of patents, but behind every one of those patents has been an inventor, an individual, because creativity is not totally limited to human beings. There's some research on creativity in the animal world, but certainly in the area of inventing, it takes an inventor. And one of the things that I know personally and experienced is that corporations are frequently very poor at encouraging their inventors. Ask me. I had 3 inventions that were turned down. Why? Because engineering that was responsible for new product development and basically invention in a little company. What was that company called, Gabriel? You remember that it's got a G and an E in its initials?
General Electric?
Oh, yeah, okay. And they turned down my ideas flat out. There was only one person in the engineering department that disagreed with the consensus. He happened to be the manager of the department, but he let it go, but he used it later in offering me a job in the engineering department. And the reason they rejected it, according to him, was because I was in marketing, and they could not stand the idea of somebody in marketing creeping over onto their turf and inventing something that was their responsibility to invent it. And besides, if marketing invented it, it couldn't possibly be any good. And so their watch, if some of you are employees or are responsible for innovation, be careful not to discourage your inventors, but work to encourage them, because encouragement for inventors is very, very important. And that's one thing I like about this group, because you do work to encourage people, to inform them, encourage them, and support them, because there's a lot of places out there, universities for one, typically don't support their inventors very well. At any rate, idea generation. Second stage is what we're going to talk about tonight, is idea evaluation. Then we're not going to talk about this, but second stage of evaluation is where you put forth some money and time and effort to do a more in-depth evaluation. And those that survive the first, you notice that at the idea evaluation stage, preliminary evaluation stage, the mortality rate is frequently very, very high. And when you get into the second stage, it takes more time and more money. And this negative profit curve here is basically where you're investing in the venture, okay? And then it goes on into technical research and development, you know, prototypes development, which can occur. These are fuzzy lines. I did prototype development right after the idea. And before I did my evaluation, and once I had the prototype done, I did my evaluation, but I'm not going to tell you what my decision, my evaluation consists of, because I would be embarrassed. So I'll let you come up with the same ideas. At any rate, then you've got market testing and commercial production, and now we have not introduced a single product into the marketplace at this time, and that's maybe some test marketing in the final stage. But notice how that curve creeps down. And you see the number up there, 1/3? Basically 1/3 of the cost of commercializing a new product occurs before the product is put into the marketplace. That has special implication for smaller businesses, that you can start the process, but you'd better have sufficient cash reserves so you can finish it. But, and that's not really good news, but the news gets worse because you can't see the whole curve. But 2/3 of the cost of developing commercializing a new product, occurs after the product's been introduced into the marketplace. I hear a lot of inventors who say, I can't wait until I start selling product and my problems will be over. There was one poor fellow who made that statement to me at a meeting, and I couldn't resist. I had to set the record straight for him. His problems were just occurring. Now, and I've had the same statement made to me when I was working with Walmart, where inventors will say, if I can just get Walmart to put my product on their shelves, boy, I'll be in hog heaven. You know, I don't know what hog heaven looks like, but that is probably, and I don't think that they would argue with me, but Walmart is probably the worst place in the world to try to introduce a new product, for a variety of reasons. Number one is the massive amount of capital that is required to finance your product when it's going through the early stages of commercialization at Walmart. You've got to be able to finance your raw and in-process inventory, your finished goods inventory, and your commercialization costs. And then you've got to be able to cover your accounts receivables as well. And we started a program at Walmart for small businesses because Walmart was having a problem. They found that buyers would find a product they'd like, and so they'd put it on the shelf, and within 6 months to a year, the product was off the shelf because the company wasn't reliable in delivery, and the product quality declined, and there are a couple of factors there. Number one, their management practices weren't up to snuff. And one of the key things was their lack of adequate financial planning, cash flow analysis, to cover all of these variables. And basically what was happening, these little companies were running out of cash. And they couldn't buy the raw materials because their credit had gone to pieces. And so they couldn't make the products. And so they couldn't make the products, they couldn't ship on demand. And so a lot of failures can be wrapped up in success, and particularly high volume success. It's better, take a look at what you're doing, what you're capable of doing, and start at that level. Or a viable alternative is to license to someone who can handle the product and handle the challenges of success. A lot of failures out there, early stage failures of potentially successful products because the company didn't have the management practices in line. And with that, we're going to turn to, I'm going to skip the rest of that phase, but one thing. 2/3 of the costs there are after the product's introduced into the marketplace. So you've got to survive that period in order to succeed. And with that, let's go up to, I'm going to skip all this stuff. And if you're a fast reader, you got it all. Now, we can stop right here. We're going to look at evaluation, and rather than its implications for economic development and enterprise success, we'll look at evaluation in terms of its implications for you folks. So let's, Gabriel, want to scroll up a little bit more? Here's the line right there. Early stage evaluation has the potential to reduce failures and to increase profits. If you can make your mistakes in inventing early on, then you're not putting forth a lot of money and making your mistakes later on. So identifying your failures early on is a way of increasing your overall probability. And let's skip up. Okay, what we're talking about here is a systematic evaluation process, which works better than a casual, informal. We started our program at the University of Oregon many, many years ago, 1974, with informal evaluations. It didn't work. Inventors got mad at us because we were telling them yes or no, and it was just done very informally. They wanted more information, and getting information is very difficult and costly to do that. We needed it, and besides, if you have a team of evaluators, they're all doing their own thing, then you don't know what basis they're using to reach a conclusion of yay or nay. And so what we did was we developed a systematic system that basically put everybody on the same page. That's the system that they use when they do an evaluator or when they do an evaluation. So when Gabriel does an evaluation, she and I have something we can talk about. We have specific talking points because we can go through that evaluation, and she can say, what do you think about this? Or I can say to her, why did you answer it that way? And that isn't necessarily a negative question. I may be wanting to get some information from her, of a positive nature. And let me ask you and put you on the spot. Does that work for you, Gabriel?
Yes, very much. And sometimes when we're also going through, there's usually about 5 points where we say it's an area of concern, not an area of concern, or it's somewhere in the middle. And when it's really important to a really big area of concern for the inventor, I like to put a comment about why that's a potential hazard for them to look out for. That's
right. You can flag serious concerns, and I do that a lot. And let's move up to the evaluation format. So that's all propaganda about it now. Here we're going to get into, and I'm going to My apologies for all of this. It should have started right here. Whoa, here we go. These are the PIES 11, PIES 12 criteria. There are 45 things that we look at now, questions that we ask. And we're going to go down and look at a couple of questions, and we'll come back up to this. And we can look at some of these in more detail. We'll skip that, and I'll come back to that as well. Here we go. Simple. This is how the system works. Each question is structured like this. And this is a favorite question of mine because it has a very serious impact on your potential success. How does this stack up with existing use patterns or methods of use, social mores, habits, that sort of thing?
Traditional.
Pardon?
Traditionalism.
Yeah.
Be a good.
Yeah, you know, is it traditional? Or is this plowing new ground? And are you going to have to change how people think, act, or do in the process? Because the further you get away from compatibility, the higher your costs are going to be because you're going to have to re-educate the consumer. That means that's a nice way of saying you got to persuade them, con them to buy this new product. And if it's a new way, and people say, new, right? You hear that all the time. I don't know about you folks, but at my very core, when it comes to something new, I'm a coward. I abhor new things. That threatens my comfort zone. I prefer to do things the old way. And one of these things that becomes, what, you want to meet my arch enemy? Well, it's actually over here, but here is my arch enemy.
My husband, who
hate
is a
this
software
thing.
engineer, will testify he spent many hours on the phone with him in pain.
Thanks.
Anytime.
Thanks. And close behind it, my cell phone. Okay, so you get my point? We've all got some areas in which we're going to balk, and it may be minimal, and we may not even be conscious about it, but whatever that occurs, it's going to drive up the cost of commercialization, and it's going to lengthen the time between where you are and where you want to be.
I heard an example this morning that fits in kind of nicely. Someone talked about, do you want to be the MySpace or the Facebook of your product? Facebook came second, but they improved upon the product. They're much more popular. They refined it. So you might not always want to be the first mover. You might be the follower and improve what you already got.
Now, my reaction to that question is?
What are MySpace and Facebook?
No, it's just, huh? I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, I have a vague idea, but not very much. But you see the point there. And every invention has an element of newness in it. And every invention should have a use benefit that you can promote. And you got to make sure that that use benefit has value to other people as well as value to yourself. I don't know how many of you have my problem. Or,
Just get one belt.
just get one belt? I tried that, but I have a problem with that. A very serious problem with that.
Your wife.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I'll get you if you rat me out. My wife likes to see me dressed up. I like my slacks and my new shoes. I want you to know that they are compliments of my wife in your honor. And I'm going to be able to tell her when I get home that there was only one tie in the entire crowd tonight. Thank you for having the courage to wear that tie, sir. Pardon?
Helps people remember.
Yeah, hey, that's a good idea. Remember that. Any rate, overall, let's skip on. Now, you can see how that question is structured. Very low. Could block commercialization. That's a serious issue. We can go back to the second question. What was that? There, overall expected value. Whoops. There, that's the. Do you understand that? The PI system uses an expected value approach because we want to look at two things. We want to look at the potential value, but then also looking at it from a risk analysis. And let me give you an example. Expected value, doesn't that sound like it's really nice? Isn't that kind of... Okay, I've got a quarter here. Pat, since you've been participating, I'm going to give you a challenge here. I want you to tell me the expected value of a flip of the coin if the, let's say, if I'm going to flip this coin, and if you guess right, I'll give you $1. I'm not going to, but but what's the expected value of a flip of the coin?
50-50 as far as
Exactly. That's exactly right. You took into consideration the risk. You call it heads. Oops, this is the state of Texas. That's a tail. It really is. And so it would be 50 cents, and it would not be rational to say be willing to pay 75 cents to get $1 on the flip of a coin. And that same concept applies to inventions. And that's what we try to do. Now you say, how on earth do you do that? It's not exactly flipping a coin. You use the evaluation system to weigh the risks or the probability of commercialization when you consider all of the things, because the invention may be very much on target. It might be a big market for it. But if that buyer at Walmart doesn't like it, you're not going to get into Walmart stores. Or if, for example, I'll tell you something that a buyer at Walmart wouldn't like, is a product that is new to the marketplace, brand new to the marketplace. David Glass, some of you will know, past president of Walmart, said, "We are terrible at introducing new products to the marketplace." He said, "No, we are just awful. We just can't do it." And I'll tell you why. The only thing they have available to you as a inventor is the shelf space upon which that product sits. So you've got the front label of your package, and that's all. If you can't capture the attention and sell the product with that front label, as that customer is walking by the aisle like this, and how many products do you go in the process of taking five or six steps down an aisle in a Walmart store? You may pass 100 or so. And if that doesn't jump out, you're not going to buy that product. And so there has to be instant recognition with the value of the use benefit of that package or product. And that's very difficult to do with a brand new product. And he said, he went on to say, we're basically copycats, we're imitators. We follow what others do. We look at what other stores do, and if they're successful with it, then we'll consider taking it on. He was just being very, very honest. And there are lots of those little variables in this innovation process that can cause you problems as you're trying to reach the marketplace. Yes, ma'am.
About time for question and answer.
She's telling me to shut up.